Welcome to today's episode of the Ecommerce Revolution Podcast, where we dive into the dynamic world of e-commerce and uncover the tools and tactics that empower today's emerging entrepreneurs. Our podcast is part of our community with the same name. The community is geared to providing emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs with courses, content, and coaching to help you all launch and grow successful businesses. Check us out at ecomrevolution.co. Let's get things started. Welcome to another episode of the Ecommerce Revolution Podcast. Today we have a special guest who's no stranger to the world of e-commerce and innovation. Alex Back is the founder and CEO of Couch.com, a company dedicated to showcasing unique furniture brands and the incredible people behind them. But that's not where Alex got his journey. He previously founded Apartment 2B. What a great name. I love Apartment 2B. It's such a cool name. I feel like I need to know what Apartment 2B is and where it was, where that name came from. A direct-to-consumer furniture brand that grew from zero to, get this, a $40 million business over 13 years. Wow. All while bootstrapping and navigating the rapidly evolving e-commerce landscape. And it is always rapidly moving, but I assure you, Alex is going to have some great stories about how he got to navigate those waters. Alex's superpower, and I love this, I connect with this perfectly, is communication. His innate curiosity about people, his ability to get them talking, has played a huge role in his success. Maybe he's going to even get me talking today, I don't know. In today's episode, we'll dive deep into Alex's strategies for helping emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs making that first 10,000. We know how important that is, and leveraging content creation, organic and paid traffic, and even AI, right? Whether you're just starting out or looking to scale, this conversation is going to be packed with valuable insights that you won't want to miss. So, without any further ado, let's welcome Alex back to the E-Commerce Revolution Podcast. Welcome, Alex.
Well, thanks, Ramin. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. Love having you on. We had a chance to chat before the show. And as I mentioned to you, you are in my LinkedIn feed. You are in it every day.
I'm everywhere, baby. You can't escape me.
Everywhere, talking about couches, right? And we'll get into the Couch.com side in a little bit. But I really was excited to have you on because you've taken a business from zero to $40 million. And that is something that every e-commerce entrepreneur dreams of. Some of us get there, and some of us will not ever get there. They'll get to a certain point, but there's always an amazing journey along the way. And I really want you to take your time today and kind of help those emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs navigate the waters of e-commerce, right? And it's gotten a little more complicated. So great to have you on. So before we get started, let's just look back real quickly and just tell us about that tremendous success that you had with Apartment 2B, taking it from that $0 all the way to 40 million, and just share those insights that you had along the way. And maybe you've journaled, I don't know, maybe you've captured all that. I'd love to hear some key lessons that you took away from that journey.
Well, Ramin, I gotta say it was easy. It was very. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm on the edge. But please, all right. I got to take notes now.
Yeah, it was a journey. What's the phrase? I can't think of it. The overnight sensation that takes whatever.
Yes, I don't know it exactly, but I know
you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, it was one of those in the sense that going from $0 to $40 million, it doesn't happen overnight. And you sort of don't realize that it's happening. You don't see when you're in the weeds, you don't see the overall sort of trajectory of a business. It's the small milestones and progress that fuel you forward. The year-over-year growth, the month-over-month growth, the first sale, the big days, the email campaign that went really well. And it's so interesting because now I'm back in that seat again with my new business and experiencing a lot of those feelings all over again. So I'm sort of uniquely poised to discuss this now because I just connected with affiliate networks on my new site, and I just got my first affiliate sale. So I'm in a season of firsts for Couch.com at the moment. But
That's
yeah,
great.
it's great.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
really
tell
excited.
me, do you remember with Apartment 2B, do you remember that first sale? Did it, like, a lot of people put that first, if they have a physical store, they put that first dollar on the wall, or they put that first $100 on the wall. Do you remember that first sale coming through?
I remember it. I remember it vaguely. It was like what was special about it was we're doing no advertising, by the way, at this time. So
Okay.
this was back in 2011. We just put up a site on the internet, popped a bottle of champagne, went live, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the next day. It was a friend of a friend, like someone that we sort of knew but didn't know personally,
Mm-hmm.
someone that trusted us enough to buy something when truthfully we had no effing idea what we were doing. but they trusted us enough. What was special about that is that it was a relative stranger. It wasn't a friend. It wasn't our mom. It wasn't someone who needed to do it to make us feel better. It was a real customer, and they expected real service. So we kind of got right off to the races with that first sale, but it was very special.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, let's go backwards and just maybe kind of think about that journey, maybe just to the first 10,000, because right, this is kind of the number that we want to work with. Tell me, some just quick essential steps that got you to that. And you may not remember exactly when that first 10K hit, but what did you do in the beginning? Was everything organic? Did you start jumping into paid right away? How did you play that?
Great question. So early on, we didn't really do any sort of measurable paid advertising for the first few years of our business. Now, the landscape was quite different at the time. There were very few independent furniture retailers online out there. That was one big thing. So we sort of had an organic presence just even before we understood what SEO was. Like, not that we were complete novices, but it was, it just wasn't, these terms weren't as commonplace as they are today. Like, we were all learning. We were sort of pioneers in this mysterious industry that had been around for a while, but not in the furniture space. So initially, our advertising and marketing plans were sort of guerrilla style. Like, we're going out to apartment complexes and saying, hey, we have this great site that you can use to furnish your tenants can use to furnish their entire apartments. Can we give you a flyer to put in your welcome packet? And maybe we spiff or commission the rental agents or whatever. That was an example of something that we did early on. We started collaborating with other brands right away and other like local stores and things like that. Put a couch in a retail clothing store. Did a pop-up event in the back of a holiday market. These were things that cost us very, very little money up front, and with a little bit of hustle and our own personal time, we were able to get a little momentum going and spread the word. Was it the smartest use of our time? Looking back, no, I wouldn't do that today. But I think the sort of 2024 version of that may look different for whatever business or whatever individual, right? We have social media. There's a lot of tools at the ready that are organic in nature that can, you can use your own time, a little bit of hustle, and you don't have to start advertising on Meta and Google ads right away. You
Sure.
can use these other tools to sort of propel at least the initial momentum of your business.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, I always try to, with education, I try to, explain that yes, you always need to look to those low to no cost marketing initiatives in the beginning, because obviously most of, you don't have money, unless you've gone out and raised money. One thing that always comes to mind, I come across entrepreneurs, e-commerce entrepreneurs that, also go to events. Maybe they're doing, a local event, or they're doing, even a farmer's market, or they're doing something to get out there to learn and talk to people. I'm like, are you capturing an email? Do you have a QR code that goes to your website where you can put an email address in? Because you want to start building. Don't just go to the event and say, oh, cool, I sold some things, but look at how do you leverage it for future growth in there. And it sounds like everything you did was, how does it turn into future growth? for the business, right?
Exactly. And I think there's an intention behind what you do, or there should be an intention behind everything you do. I often go to farmers markets and I look around and it's like quite clear who's there who just because they feel like they should be there and they're just sort of like twiddling their thumbs. And then there's other people, there's other stands that are busy kind of for no reason. And I think the reason is that the people are hustling and they're going there with a goal in mind. I think setting goals is extremely important. And that goal doesn't have to be like sell $1 million of juice that day. It can be get 30 emails. I'm going to get 30 emails because I know that in the online space, it takes me 3 weeks to get 3 emails, or it takes me $400 to get 3 emails. It costs me $200 to be part of the farmer's market. So let me hustle today and get the 30 emails. And then you have a goal and an intention behind what you're doing. Hey, how you doing? This is our juice. You don't have to buy anything, but would you like to sign up for an email just to see where we're going to be next?
Yeah, no, it's a great, and I think that we always have to remember that it's very easy to get enamored by the sexy, quote unquote, sexy marketing initiatives that are out there. But sometimes, just looking back, old school, is a very good way. And it sounds like that's what you were doing. You were literally going door to door, speaking to apartment owners, trying to get into into their mind and get the brand ingrained in their, everyday lives. So I think that's an amazing. And one thing I find is, so that's, you get things going, but how do you build momentum? That's what I want to know. I mean, you did this for 13 years before you eventually sold the business. Momentum is hard to keep going. What did you do to build that momentum? Did you look at every sale and say, okay, I can do 2 more than I did last week? Or what tactics do you have around momentum that would be helpful?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think at a core level, appreciating the small wins and appreciating the progress every day, whether you're just checking things off your own list or you're actually making sales, is very important. And it's very difficult to do this because if you're goal oriented and your mind is on the prize, or if you're focused on some of your worries and concerns, am I doing this right? Is this business going to succeed? It can really stunt your growth. If instead you focus on smaller milestones, okay, we got 1 sale today. Can we get 2 tomorrow? That's basically what you just said. Or even just crossing things off your to-do list that were really difficult to do. I think most people will find that you're making a lot of progress. So I think if you see it more as a game of inches where you're sort of moving towards the goal line, to use a football reference, and every inch sometimes, or a first down or yardage, whatever, all of that stuff really matters. So, you just have to make sure you set yourself up to keep moving forward and keep achieving things, which is to say, keep putting things on your list, keep trying to cross things off. I think, but I think in the beginning, it's okay to start small. This is a very, very important thing that I think about. And I remind myself right now that you can scale a good business. It doesn't have to be huge right away. It just has to be good. So making it good on a very small scale, going on that farmer's market and selling a few juices could be representative of a larger plan where you have 1,000 farmers markets, because there are in this country, every weekend with selling juices, and each one of them is doing 4 to 10 juices or whatever. My point is, there's smaller microcosmic ways to look at a business and appreciate the progress on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, no, I love that, and we won't keep talking about farmers markets, even though I think they're very, very beneficial. I just listened to a podcast, one of my favorites, How I Built This, and they were interviewing the founders of Banana Republic, and they got started, going to a flea market, and they had a strategy, and the first strategy didn't work, and then they added. So everybody. You have to find that place, I think, is really what you're saying, and continue to build. I love building the wins, because it gets you, listen, we all have ego in this, right? We're all invested in this, and wins help us get up in the morning. Wins help us get to the next one and build that momentum that is so, so important to ultimately building a strong brand. Now, I want to switch gears and ask you about one of the other low cost initiatives out there, especially, has become a very big thing right now, and that's content creation. I almost feel like e-commerce entrepreneurs today need to be, they need to be content producers day in and day out. What is and did you guys use content creation back then? Those are the early days of really the SEO side of things, but how important is content creation in the early stage of an e-commerce business?
Well, I think it's important for two reasons. One, there's sort of the more technical reason, which is SEO and building a strong foundation for your business.
Mm-hmm.
If we invested more heavily in SEO, I mean, hindsight is always 2020, but if we had invested in SEO early on more, and built more actually written content, keyword research focused stuff, that had a long tail life cycle. 10 years later, we would have literally saved millions of dollars in advertising a year. Why? Because all the money that we spent bringing people to the site on paid advertising, we could have had a much larger organic reach at my former company. So that's something I'll say. Just SEO, it does work. I'm living proof. I work. It's literally my life right now is writing and making content. And I think it's really important. It can be very beneficial. And you can hit on something. You can get lucky kind of too. Like something can really hit if a Google or other search engine likes what you're doing, they could really favor it. There's also other search engines emerging right now. We're in a time of great volatility with Google for many reasons, and a great emergence of AI tools that are giving a lot of people a lot of search results and information. Who's to say that you have a great brand, he writes some awesome content, and ChatGPT, you become ChatGPT's darling? It's certainly possible. No one's saying it's not. But on the other side of it, it's also about creating a brand. And I think in e-commerce, a lot of people overlook this importance, especially in the higher average order value tiers. And the reason I say that is because it still takes a lot of trust, and it's a hard decision to make to buy something online, sight unseen. We just have to remember that. As much as it's common, there's a reason why only single digit percentage of people convert on anybody's website. It's because it's really hard to make a purchasing decision versus people who walk into Banana Republic. It's a much higher conversion rate. So all that to say, having a brand is one of those things. Having some personality, some content, some fun content, interesting, engaging content, personality, people. These things can really help create customer confidence and ultimately convert sales. It doesn't have to be like some crazy thought out, $400,000 branding strategy. It can just be like, hey, I'm Alex. This is my brand, and I want to tell you about why it's awesome. And that sometimes can really resonate with people and start moving that conversion rate up and up.
Yeah, I love it. And, video, I think, plays into this as well. I mean, the second biggest search engine out there is YouTube, and, creating that content. And, I think that it can be hard, especially video, can be hard for people, right, to get up in front of the camera. You mentioned in your bio that, you have a performing arts background. So maybe, getting in front of the camera is something you enjoy doing, but there are a lot of people who don't. But then I guess I would say then it doesn't have to be in front of the camera. Just write content, create something around your brand that your buyer persona would want to read, that your buyer persona would be interested in, and would attract them, right? I mean, you would agree with that?
100%. And there's so many ways to do it, but you mentioned video, and I like, video doesn't have to be these produced, behemoths that we see on YouTube. And I'm creating content and you're creating content, Ramin, that's meant for a niche audience, and it's just different. So you can't hold yourself to like the Jake Paul standards or Logan, whatever, one of the Paul brothers out there. It's okay to make content and invest in your business and your brand by doing that. And one thing I do, a little tip, is I have a lot to say about furniture. I've been in the industry for a long time. It takes me a long time to sit down and write because I self-edit as I write, and I just like things to be perfect. But when I find that if I just turn a camera on or voice notes and I just start to talk, there are so many tools now that will just literally clean up everything that you said and transcribe it and put it into a format that can be turned into a blog post, into an article, whatever. So if you have something to say, start recording yourself and maybe find the medium that works best for it.
Yeah, I like that. And that's a good, repurposing your content, because you have to create so much, taking that recording and turning it into a blog or snipping it up and turning it into social media posts becomes, really, it's a time saver more than, anything else, and get you there a lot faster. But let's go back to, and this is an area where a lot of emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs get tripped up. They're fine with, social. They're going to, they'll build out a social media calendar and they'll start posting and experimenting, and, they can write some content and get those low to no cost. But what happens when it's time? When is it time to do paid advertising? When is it time to pay Google and pay Meta and pay, Pinterest potentially and TikTok to drive traffic to your site? Is there a number out there that e-commerce entrepreneurs should be looking for? Or is it, you know what, I just want to take it to the next level, and now's that time?
Well, I have an interesting take on this, which is that it's sort of these days, it's so easy to start. It's so easy and self-serve to start advertising on Meta or Google. And if you don't want to like take the time to learn the platforms yourself, which is quite difficult. In fact, I wouldn't recommend it. I would say find a friend who has done it before, or, an independent person. There's so many people who have a lot of experience in these areas. Where I'm going with this is you can do a very small scale test, and it can be very telling of, the current state of your business and your future potential with paid advertising. For instance, take a few $1,000s or even a few $100s. Clicks don't cost that much money. I mean, it certainly depends on which medium you're using and what audiences and what you're targeting. But generally speaking, each one can cost anywhere from a few cents to a few dollars. So if you think about it, if you just want to bring 100 people to your site and see what they do, it could cost anywhere from $30 to, let's say, $500, which is not a major investment to get 100 strangers on paid advertising to your site. If 3% of them do this and 18% of them do that, you're going to start learning things. So I wouldn't necessarily see paid advertising as a means to immediate conversion so much as I would see it as a means to immediate user testing. There are other ways to user test too, but I just think that it's a much easier entry point these days than it used to be to get into these platforms and start messing around. And maybe you can unlock some gold there, either for your own business or your website, or some paid advertising strategy that like works out of the gate.
Yeah. And once you get them there, if you've got email marketing set up and you've got a pop-up in there, you can hopefully get them on your list, entice them. And now they become your customer, right? They're no longer Meta's, property of Meta, and you can't, the only way to communicate with them is on Meta. Now they're yours, and you can continue to build and nurture that relationship. So I like that small. Again, everybody tends to think, and not everybody, I should say, that I'm not going to generalize here, but a lot of people tend to think, oh, it's got to be big. It's got to be grandiose. But starting out small, as you just mentioned, and just taking a little to start learning what's working and what's not. But I'll agree with you 100% that I think it's gotten so complicated that it is very difficult for especially emerging e-commerce, brands who don't know how to do it, to get in there and do it. So yes, finding that person, that freelancer using Upwork, Fiverr Pro, friend, anybody to help you learn it, because then you could be a student out there. And I know a lot of people. Ben Heath is a big Meta guy out there on YouTube, and a lot of people go to him to just learn. And he's teaching all the time. And I think there's content everywhere, right? So you can try to learn it yourself or find somebody who can help you get there faster. So tell me just, I want to talk about AI in a moment, because I know this is an area that obviously is very important to the world of e-commerce, and, you can definitely speak to it. But let's just talk real quickly about some obstacles. Along those 13 years that you went from 0 to 40 million, what kind of obstacles do you remember? And that you would share and say, be aware of this. This could be a pitfall for you.
I mean, so many. I think, God, where do I begin? I think one major obstacle that comes to mind that every business will deal with at some point is cash flow. Now, e-commerce, if you set it up right, can be a cash flow positive business, meaning you take money from customers before you have to buy product or really do anything else. Not anything else, but anything operationally or focused on the fulfillment. So you can run a pretty lean organization. That being said, it's often that you may find yourself in the position of having to buy inventory or work with a marketplace partner that doesn't pay you until after something is delivered. In which case you find yourself fronting money for things sort of on the if come, taking a risk of some sort, whether you made an Amazon sale or whether you are buying t-shirts so that you can sell them, ship them next day. So I think cash flow is a thing that can be crippling to some people, but I think staying ahead, keeping your head above water and realizing that cash flow is not necessarily a critical error in your business. Most big businesses have to leverage cash and money in ways that we would never understand. They have loans, they have creditor, they have everybody. Every big business that I can think of has some version of leveraging, robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, is a common term. So all that to say, at one point, I think we were just like really, really down, and we had this deal with Costco. And so Costco was an early partner for us, and we can talk about that more if you like. But Costco was fantastic. They helped us get our brand on the map. We did we put a lot of revenue through Costco's system, but it was fundamentally completely different than our e-commerce business in that we did not take customer deposits. In fact, we had to make the sale, do the marketing, pay our people, make the sale, buy the product, ship the product, deliver the product, do all the customer service. And then 15 days after the product was delivered, we invoice Costco, and then we get paid 30 days after. So it was almost this sort of, very cash flow negative situation. We had to borrow 30 grand from a friend. So that was sort of that was a low point for us mentally. But in thinking back to it, really all it was just we hadn't thought it through ahead of time, and we didn't have access to cash. So if we have this deal with Costco, there are plenty of people out there who would be willing to give us, a short-term loan that wasn't just a friend who was helping us out. The reason I'm mentioning this crazy story is because I think it's representative of these problems that seem like mission critical errors that are actually just temporary fixes or things that you just hadn't anticipated. It's not necessarily that your business is broken if you have to go borrow money from a bank or from a friend or some other loan, provider. And that's just one example. There's plenty of other examples of these issues, these things that happen that are fixable. Mm-hmm. And are sort of, once you know what they are, you can really address them properly.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because I think a lot of people get stuck into the obstacles of marketing and, cash, money, the revenue, the profit, all of this is, it is incredibly important on that road to 10K and above. You have to understand. And here you were presented with a situation that was outside the norm of your business model. And obviously, Costco sounds like a phenomenal partnership to have, but it comes with, a different model and you have to adapt. And it sounds like you guys adapted. I mean, it sounds like a wonderful, I love that story were you eventually in every single Costco? Is that how it ended up playing out, or was it very regionalized?
This is a regional thing. So if anybody's listening out there and goes to Costco, I think that sometimes you walk through and there's this sort of, they're called road shows, right? There's this sort of marketplace bazaar, whether it's the guy selling hummus or the guy selling the knives or the woman giving you
Vitamix.
Vitamix. Perfect example. They have the headset. and they've done it for years.
Mhm.
In the furniture space, Lovesac has a tremendous Costco roadshow operation nationally. They do a ton of business with Costco. What's
Mhm.
great about this and great about working with Costco, there are a lot of things that aren't great about working with Costco, but one of the things that is that for their roadshow operations, they don't charge any upfront fees. They just take a cut of
Mm.
business. So their buyers, there's a buying team for their special events. And if they like you, they're betting on you. They're giving you floor space, where
Hmm.
they're literally, you go into the Costco to set up your roadshow event. We put, 6 to 8 couches on the ground. They have their pallet, they have their forklifts, and they're moving the pillows out of the way, the rugs, the plants,
Wow.
the hummus, whatever it is. They're moving it out of the way to
Hmm.
put this. So they're betting on us to do better than some of their inline products,
Hmm.
and they take a 14% cut, or they did traditionally.
Right.
So for us, we just saw that as a marketing expense, and
Hmm.
14% marketing expense these days, especially today in 2024 for an e-commerce business is a pretty good
Mhm.
number, I think, depending on your business model. It certainly is for furniture. So for
Yeah.
us, it was a very, very positive business. But as you said, we did have to pivot a lot of things and change and hire staff and do in-person events. Like, we never thought we were going to do that when we started an e-commerce business in our apartment. That
Mhm.
wasn't really part of the plan. But being nimble, being able to pivot, seize opportunities, and see your business as an iterative process is
Mhm.
vital to early success, I think. Just don't get stuck on one idea. If you need to go to
Right.
Costco and sell next to the Vitamix guy, do it if it makes sense.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love looking at all these opportunities and making decisions, but getting some planning in there so you're not caught. You're going to be caught off guard at some point, but you'll have at least some information to work with and understand, and maybe even talking to other people who are on road shows or other people who have sold into Costco. And how does that work? And how do you do this? As one example, wherever you go in your business in the early days, I like to also say systemize it too, if you can. Start to document how does this work? How does this side of the business work? And who do I need to put on that team? And who do I need to hire, et cetera? And now you've got yourself an SOP, a standard operating procedure for how to do that, but be ready to change that operating procedure all the time because things will happen regularly. Let's dive into AI, okay? Because this is obviously a hot topic. Probably every single podcast out there is going to tap into AI somehow. But I think in the world of e-commerce, and especially with emerging brands, those with small teams, maybe a team of one and a couple of freelancers, AI has almost become a saving grace, a writing partner, a content creating partner, all this. What is your take? I mean, when you built, Apartment 2B, I'm assuming there was no glimpse of AI, anywhere in there, and you weren't able to use it. If you could go back in time, how would you leverage AI to help scale Apartment 2B?
Yeah. In so many ways. I mean, there's the obvious sort of elephant in the room in this conversation when it comes to its content creation. And that's a big one. But there's also all of these AI tools that I use every single day now to run my business, to get information, um, to create things, to organize thoughts. Um, I mean, you can there are AI tools within Excel that you can create spreadsheets and VLOOKUPs without understanding how to set up a VLOOKUP. Like, there's so many things you can do. So I just think we would have probably been a lot more efficient. I also ran a very big customer service team for many years. I think that's an area that we can really, if you take the time to set up a AI chatbot to answer questions and have it have a really good personalized feel. I think that's an area that really, especially in a high touch, high consideration purchase realm like furniture, uh, really helpful. But ultimately, yes, content creation. I mean, there's a lot of sort of doom and gloom, um, uh, doom and gloom news content out there about using AI. Everyone's going to crack down on it, and I think we have to be aware of that stuff. But at the same time, like I used an example before a few minutes ago of just speaking into a camera or speaking into my voice notes and letting AI sort of organize my thoughts, and that could be used for anything, whether I'm creating an article or a blog post, or if I'm preparing for a meeting and I'm just like getting all my thoughts together. But in content creation, I think we can accelerate, things using AI pretty quickly. There's really no excuse not to do written content for SEO. Now that we have all these AI tools, my
Right.
recommendation would be to pay for a good tool that, maybe it's $100 a month. I have a great one called Surfer SEO, like Surfer.
Yeah.
So
love that company.
Oh, you do? Okay, good. So it's, I mean, we use it to write articles. It gives us drafts and versions, and we will go back in and I have a writer that edits them and, but using tools that are smart, that understand and are just being optimized with the current sort of trends of Google and other search engines is very, very good thing to do.
Yeah, no, I love it. I just the other day, I was working with a client and we were taking a look at their Shopify reports. When you go, not in the analytics section, but below, there are detailed reports, and you can just click on each one of them and run a time period, and there are maybe 20, 30 reports in there. But you can look at them all day long, and if you don't know what you're looking at, it means great. There's a bunch of graphs, things are going up and down and all over the place. But to export them out, feed them into the paid version of ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to analyze the data and then bring it back and give you an executive summary of what they see in the data and what kind of recommendations it would have. I got to say, I was, once again, blown away by the ability of this. And now all of a sudden, as a emerging e-commerce entrepreneur, I can look at this data and say, oh, that's what that means. And, you talked about making sure cash flow is, important. What if you could just, you roll your financials. So many people don't know how to read a P&L and don't know how to read a balance sheet or don't know how to export that data out and test it. It's not going to always be perfect. And we're in the early days. So, always take it with a grain of salt, cross-check it against something else. But that's something that wasn't available to you or I back in the day when we were starting e-commerce brands.
So much so that I've never even thought of that specific thing. Like I'm consulting for a brand right now on Shopify, and I've been in the report section and doing my own thing. And I'm literally going to do what you just suggested. And the reason I haven't thought of it is simply because this is so new. We just haven't even wrapped our minds around the capabilities yet. And
so there's something new every day.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. I know, it's insane.
Yeah,
but
try that out. See if it works. See if it gives you the right kind of information. I always do believe that still, yes, because we're in the early days, it's good to cross-check that data. But, as it gets smarter and smarter, just imagine, your whole business. And I'm assuming Shopify will continue to integrate AI into all of these features because most of their audience or most of their clients are emerging e-commerce brands. They're starting out for the first time and they don't know how to read this information. They don't know what to do with it. And how do you make it better? So I love that. And those are some very good, examples. And, again, I think you probably wish that AI was around when you were building Apartment 2B. I wish it was around when I was doing, but it's now here and you're using it with your own brand. But before we talk about Catch.com and, some of the lessons you've learned, in the early stages of this brand, just tell me about customer retention. So much is spent on acquisition in the early days, right? We are spending either money, time, effort, acquire. Let's talk about retention in the early stages of a business. How important is retention for the long-term success of an e-commerce brand?
Well, I think it's extremely important. So if you think about an e-commerce site as a retail store, right? Let's just picture it's like a brick and mortar store in a strip mall. Those stores have traffic counters. They count how many people walk into their store every day. So if your goal is to get a certain amount, let's say it's, you want to get 1,000 people in your shop every day. You want to get 1,000 people to your e-commerce store every day. How are you going to do it? Well, you can pay for those users. Let's say it's $1 a click. That'll cost you $1,000. And maybe you can convert a certain percentage and maybe it makes sense. But if you have an email list and you send customers who already have shown interest in your brand or have already purchased, you can maybe get those 1,000 people in the store for very little to free. Whenever I send an email for couch.com these days, I'll basically, double or triple my traffic for that day. And it's plain to see that having customers, having their first party data, being able to communicate with them is vital. There is sort of sometimes this overemphasis on customer retention. Sometimes on the other end of it, though, like in furniture, you can spend a lot of time and money chasing a second time purchase for some, for a product that people are likely not going to buy again. I mean, people buy couches every average 6 to 7 years. That's an average. That means some people buy it every 3 years, but some people buy it every 20 years. So it's not necessarily worth, going all in on it. I think you have to be smart about it and think, just really take a good look in the mirror. What kind of product do I have? Is this a recurring product? If so, customer retention is vital to you. If this is a subscription product or if this is a consumable product or apparel, things that people will buy on a regular basis. If it's refrigerators that you're selling, maybe you're focusing more of your time on retention, on acquisition, and the retention is more of like a short-term retention. I just think understanding what your version of customer retention is very important, and I'm living proof of that because I talk about it every day in furniture because it's quite different.
Yeah, no, that's good. Know your business and know where retention fits in, because it may not be the same for every single business. And a lot of times in the community, I like to teach people, get your email marketing set up. Let's get your pop-up set up. Let's get your automation sequences set up. Let's get your campaigns mapped out and how you're going to do it. And the question always goes, well, I don't really have a lot of traffic yet. Why am I doing this? Well, you're doing this because the minute you start to work on acquisition, the goal is that people are going to start joining that list if we've inspired them to join, and your automations are going to kick in. And I don't care if you have 5 people on your list or 10 people, start getting in the habit of sending out emails. And email marketing is just one of several retention strategies, but it happens to be probably the one that most people, are used to, maybe feel more comfortable with, and has been around forever. So I think I love what you just said about that. Know your business, because it may not fit perfectly as it does with somebody else's business. Their retention strategy will be different than yours. So understand that. That's great. I love that. Love that. So let's talk about couch.com. This is where did the inspiration come from? You obviously were in the industry before, you know the furniture world. And how did you get the name? Was that a pricey investment, or was that something that somebody just missed out there and you found it? I doubt it's the latter.
Nobody misses single word domains anymore, sadly.
I know.
No, it cost me a lot of money. Whatever my ex-wife didn't take in the divorce, this was pretty much the rest of it. But it honestly, the idea for couch.com came together because of the name. Somebody told me that it was available. And somebody, I can't remember who, someone in my network, told me, hey, couch.com is available. I know you're looking for an opportunity. So I left my last company. I was sort of traveling and finding myself and going through a lot of personal transitions. And I wasn't really interested in being in the furniture space. I was reading business books and just trying to, broaden my scope. And then someone told me about couch.com being available for sale. And then I started thinking about it. I'm well, at first I thought this could be the mecca of couches. I could sell so many couches off of the URL couch.com. I could build a brand called Couch around this. And No one could challenge me. I could be the brand called Couch, and we could sell our own couches. But in thinking about running a direct to consumer operation again, I, was a little hesitant. I didn't really want to do it again and start from scratch and kind of do the exact same thing that I had just done. And then I had this aha moment when I was on a solo trip in Europe by myself. And I'm like, wait a second, this can be a lot more scalable. Now, something I have a lot of experience in is the affiliate marketing space. And I see how important it has been to the furniture industry and how it has emerged so much. And it's still like the Wild West out there. So it's a whole other podcast about affiliate marketing. But this sort of being a publisher and being an entity in the furniture industry that helps users find their couches, because customers have no idea where to go to shop for furniture, since it's something we do every 5 to 10 years. And there are many other reasons too. And then on the retailer side, retailers have no idea where to find people who are shopping for furniture because they only shop for it every 5 to 10 years. There are very few signs as a marketer in furniture to know where to find users. We basically go out to Meta and Google and say, would you like some furniture? How about you, sir? Like, it's almost ridiculous how much money is wasted. So I am building and have built this platform that helps the retailers of the furniture industry market themselves. It's a marketing platform for couch retailers out there. We write articles, we have content, we have interviews with founders, and ultimately we give, we're sort of putting up this portal of information and education and access to these brands that are fairly personalityless, generally speaking, in the furniture space. And users and customers really like that. And they need that to feel comfortable making a purchase of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. So I see Couch.com as being this content-driven marketplace, as that's what we're building, to sort of connect customers with their perfect couches. And in doing so, by connecting them with the retailers that fit their needs the best.
I love it. That's, well, first of all, great explanation of the brand and how you got there. And I love, you took your time to find this. And in some ways it found you too. I think, at least the domain found you through somebody else. And, building a business around a domain is an interesting model. And, you iterated. You had one vision initially, and then you moved there. And I think that's a great lesson for every e-commerce brand that's starting out. It may not be exactly what you think it is, on day one. It may evolve, and I will absolutely use it because that number is interesting. The statistic on how often people buy couches, at least in my head, we're in the market for a new couch. Whether my wife agrees with me or not, that'll be another a discussion for another time. But to be able to learn more and figure out more and find the right. It's a hard decision, right? Because you're going to literally sit on this thing for a long time. You better get it right, because that's the last thing you want, that thing in your house, and you're sitting and why? What was, why? Why does this feel like this? This is not right. We can probably all remember the great couch in our life, in our lives that, so I love that you're essentially bringing those two worlds together, bringing them together. And I think that's a phenomenal, and you don't have to sit on any inventory, which is another great part of this, right? This model.
Yeah. And no, I have clients, but not customers.
Right.
Clients are the retailers in the furniture industry.
Yeah.
And they've been fairly demanding a little bit here and there, but I'm not managing a national furniture logistics operation, which is quite difficult to do. And
I can imagine.
Yeah. But anyway, that's just the path that I've chosen. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the furniture space. So who knows where we'll end up in a year or two. I mean, we might pivot again.
Well, I love that. Well, as we wrap up, I've got two final questions for you. One, I just would love for you to think about, your days at Apartment 2B and now your current, Couch.com. Is there one lesson? Is there one thing you could just, share? You've shared a lot of great information. But is there that one thing that stands out where you would say, you've got to know this? This is one piece of advice I want you to know as you're starting your e-commerce brand.
I want to say something different just to be different, but I really want to accentuate something that we've talked about today. And I just mentioned, I think seeing it was because it was an unlock for me to learn this. Seeing your business as an iterative process is very, very important. Now, you want to go in with a plan, you want to go in with multiple plans, but having some mental flexibility to change and restructure things, do whatever it takes to succeed is so important in my view. There was a quote that I'm terrible at remembering specific quotes, but it's something like, when the market is gargantuan and the opportunity is really large, then you can't really fail as long as you stay nimble, which is to say, like, I know couch.com is going to do something. It's too big to fail. The furniture market is multi billions of dollars every year in America. So whether you're selling juices at a farmer's market or you're selling couches on the internet, just recognize that there's something you like about this business. There's an opportunity. It doesn't have to be exactly what you initially thought it was. That's sort of a little bit attached to one's ego, I believe. And I think if you see it as an iterative process, you can set yourself up better for success, because when opportunities come along, you might want to seize them, whether it was what you expected or not.
I am so happy you doubled down on that and, came at it from, a slightly different angle and really honed in on it. I mean, I was listening and taking it in too, because it's very hard, or I should say, actually, it's very easy to forget that it is an iterative process. Things will change. We tend to, as you said, our ego gets in there and gets connected with one little nuance, and it has to be this. But I love the big market, big idea, big opportunity. Why wouldn't you be able to make it work? You just need to be okay letting it evolve and changing and adjusting as you go in there. Phenomenal, Alex. I love that. That is spoken like a true entrepreneur. And thank you. You helped me, honestly. Just, I took it in. Very, very important. So my last question for you, and we'll circle back to AI really quickly. What's one thing you've done recently on AI that you had that moment, like I had the other day? You're like, wow, I did not know that you could do that. And I love that. And that has changed maybe your process for what you were trying to accomplish.
Well, overall, in the last year, there's been so many of those moments. It's hard to pinpoint one. One big one for me, if I take the last year as a time period, just creating anything visual it's unbelievably easy. Now, I feel terrible for the graphic designers that I've worked with and friends that I've had in the past, but they're just simply not needed in the exact same way anymore. They're not.
Right.
All that to say, tools like Canva, I use Midjourney to make images of furniture. First of all, getting lifestyle images, meaning furniture images in a person's home or with people on it, is incredibly expensive and cost prohibitive. And sometimes you need to do it because you need to show the actual furniture. But if you're just writing an article about how to enjoy a sectional sofa in your living room or whatever it is, you don't need the real couch and the real people. You can use AI. So that was a huge, just visual assets, how fast we're able to create them and how many great templates there are and things like that. That's one. But the other thing is, keyword research. I mean, man, there's all these tools, and there used to be so much manual effort in keyword research and figuring out what people are searching for, what kind of customers you might be able to acquire. There are tools on a smaller scale like this Surfer SEO, where you can just kind of type in the word furniture, let's say, or juice, and get the top ranked term, meaning the top searched terms that are related to that. And it can create an entire outline of an article or even a full article for you based on that. On a larger scale, tools like SparkToro is this awesome one that can give you so many insights about your industry that you're trying to target the audience, the competitors, the people, the keywords, literally everything. And it's all AI powered. So there's just so much access to information out there. I just think it's a matter of figuring out what you want to look for, and you'll find it with some AI tool.
That's yes. The imagery is amazing. It's getting better every day. Sometimes you still see maybe a person with an extra finger or two in there. Just be aware
what's an
of
extra
that.
finger?
Yeah,
come on, Ramin.
Take it, lob it off, and you'll be fine. But you're right. I mean, these are, and maybe you mentioned the graphic designers. They have to be ready to pivot in their business now and adapt to the fact that a lot of people are going to AI to get their imagery rather than maybe going to the graphic designer who's up on Upwork or on Fiverr or wherever they are to try to create it. I always think, what I love is that, content creators. I also think content creators are in a awkward situation right now because of AI. What I love is if a content creator pivots their business, they should pivot it towards, this is just my opinion, towards taking that AI-based information and tweaking it and adjusting it and making it, adding a human element to it. That's a good combination of those two worlds working well together because everybody's going there to get their content, but and I don't think you should copy it word for word, but there are plenty of times where I even see the content, I'm like, why would I change that? That's amazing. What just came out of there is absolutely amazing. So many industries are being affected by this, but I think our goal here is to help emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs use tools to help build successful businesses. And you've just, identified several opportunities here, just in the AI side, not to mention everything else you talked about. Well, Alex, this has been an absolute pleasure having you on. I'm so glad that I kept that email, that original pitch that came my way, and that I reached out, and your information has been incredibly valuable. I've learned, and I know that our audience will continue to, learn, and it's all about learning, adjusting, making changes along the way, but building successful brands. And, first work on that first 100, then work on the next 1,000, and then work on 10, and then continue on. And it's all a big, long journey. And I appreciate you and greatly appreciate it. Maybe take a few minutes and tell people where they can find you. I know they can find you on LinkedIn because you're there. Where else can they find you?
I'm a very communicative person. I love when people reach out. I've found a lot of opportunities have come from just networking. And I've done a lot of it the past couple of years. It's been very fruitful. So my email is alex@couch.com. Pretty difficult, right? I encourage anybody listening to please, if you have a question or an opportunity or anything, really just reach out. I'm happy to discuss at any time.
Great. Well, I appreciate that. And maybe at some point we'll have you come into the community. We do a little live, tell us what you learned concept, and let people ask you some questions because you're a wealth of knowledge. So thank you very much. And I hope you continue to have a wonderful rest of your week. Okay. And hang tight here as we wrap up. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on today's podcast. We try to bring as much information to the community to help them grow, and hopefully today's episode has done just that for you. So continue to work hard and continue to grow your business, and know that, as Alex said, things will change, and you better be ready for those changes and make adjustments along the way. Thank you again. Have a great day. All right, that brings us to the end of another episode of the Ecommerce Revolution Podcast. Don't forget to check out past episodes, which are all available on demand on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Ready to join the revolution? Become an exclusive part of our growing community of emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs at ecomrevolution.co. Until next time, see ya.